Welcome to MALDEF's 2017 Los Angeles Awards Gala. Tonight is brought to you by the generous support of our co-chairs, Toyota, Vayamos Juntos, and SEIU United Healthcare Workers West. Our legal chairs, Walmart, and Bank of America. MALDEF is grateful for the support of its national sponsor, Toyota. Our national airline sponsor, Southwest Airlines. And our national law firm partner, the Sidley Austin Foundation. MALDEF is proud to honor artist and muralist Barbara Carrasco, California Secretary of State, the Honorable Alex Padilla, and former Attorney General of New Mexico, the Honorable Patricia Madrid. Please welcome your Master of Ceremonies for this evening, anchor with NBC4 Southern California, Michelle Valles.
All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get this party started, y'all. Take our seats and welcome. Bienvenidos to MALDEF's 2017 Los Angeles Awards Gala. I am Michelle Valles, honored to be your host this evening. I hope I don't have any salad in my teeth. On behalf of MALDEF, we want to thank each and every one of you for joining us tonight. Of course, this event wouldn't be possible without your support. I also like to take a moment to recognize Mi Familia NBC4 and our Spanish language sister station, Telemundo 52, both here tonight. Un abrazo to all my colleagues here joining me tonight as well. Thank you. Kim Dutton, Terry Hernandez Rosales Hernandez, all my family here tonight. So thank you so much, NBC4. Thank you to the NBC4 team for your steadfast commitment to the communities we serve for supporting tonight's event. As we make our way to the tables, our company's legacy of supporting groups like MALDEF runs deep. Groups whose work is extraordinarily meaningful and makes an important impact in the community locally and nationally. So thank you, MALDEF, for including NBC4 and parent company Comcast NBC4 Universal tonight. So we're thrilled to be here to celebrate. Oh, someone's shush, y'all, and it wasn't me. Oh, the voice of God. Did y'all hear that? That was pretty cool. I'm thrilled to be here tonight to celebrate. We got such a huge celebration, 3 honorees tonight, y'all. This is our community, our Latino community, an organization that has been at the forefront of civil rights and community empowerment for generations. We have turned to MALDEF for representation and ensuring fair and equitable treatment. And tonight, we have a great program, again, lined up with 3 amazing honorees. Before we recognize them, I want to share more about MALDEF and its footprint in our community. MALDEF opened its doors in 1968. You know where? San Antonio, Texas, my home state. Any Tejanos out there? And we're so proud to be here in California too. A lot of efforts by Latino community activists from throughout the southwestern United States to create a legal organization to serve the Latino community. MALDEF sought to fulfill the critical needs of the nation's growing Latino community through litigation, advocacy, and community education. And you look at the room today, who is it filled with? Many Latinos, many attorneys. MALDEF's victories throughout the decades have immeasurably benefited the Latino community. MALDEF has worked to secure voting rights, equal educational opportunities, non-discriminatory workplaces and fairness and justice in government services. MALDEF's efforts have also directly resulted in state and federal laws that are more respectful of civil and constitutional rights. As the Latino legal voice for the civil rights in America, MALDEF has also helped bring about significant gains in the area of civil rights in this country. And though, of course, we still have a long road ahead in many avenues, we are fortunate to have MALDEF as a leader in the fight to secure a better quality of life for Latinos through our great nation. Our program this evening will celebrate the careers and accomplishments of selfless and courageous individuals who have dedicated themselves to safeguarding and expanding the civil rights of the Latino community. So let's get right to it with our first esteemed honoree, born in El Paso, Texas like me, Barbara Carrasco, recipient of MALDEF's Leadership in the Arts Award. Barbara is most often described as an artist and a muralist, but to use an artistic metaphor that doesn't paint the whole picture, Barbara Carrasco is a storyteller. She's a social warrior. She's visionary. Her works have illustrated the depth and the breadth of the Latino experiences for audiences throughout the United States, Europe, and Latin America. Barbara is internationally renowned as a powerful commentator, unafraid to confront and challenge stereotypes surrounding race, class, gender, and even sexuality. You've no doubt seen her work around town. Barbara was recently a featured artist in the Pacific Standard Times exhibitions here in Los Angeles. Her iconic mural, yes, that's a big deal. Her iconic mural, LA History, a Mexican Perspective, was displayed in Union Station as part of the PST exhibits. And by the way, LA History has a unique history of its own. It was commissioned in 1981 by the Los Angeles Community Redevelopment Agency. That's the same agency that tried to censor the finished project for being too critical of government and society. So LA History sat in a warehouse for 27 years before this fall's Union Station show, another vindication of Barbara's unique vision. And that vision is evident in Barbara's original mural sketches and drawings housed at the Library of Congress, a permanent collection of her papers at Stanford, and an archive of her oral history at the Smithsonian Institution. Wow. Barbara earned her BFA from UCLA and her MFA from the California Institute of the Arts, and she continues to share her gifts with the community. She is taught at UC Riverside, UC Santa Barbara, Loyola Marymount, and she serves as a board member of the Dolores Huerta Foundation. She is a recipient of many fellowships, grants, and awards, and MALDEF is pleased to add her to tonight's honor, or add her to the honor to the list. So let's take a look at the video profile MALDEF created for Barbara.
I was interviewing John Valadez, a famous painter, early on in 1978 for an article I was writing for the La Opinión. I had done a series of interviews of various artists, and while I was interviewing him, there was a lot of noise in the next room. Someone was castigating a whole group of young men, telling them to behave themselves, telling them not to be sexist, and she was making quite a ruckus, and I asked John Valadez, could you please ask her to calm down a little bit? And then John Valadez says, no one tells Barbara Carrasco to shut up.
She was just really a bundle of energy and a bundle of joy, and just really artistic and just fun. I mean, Barbara's just a fun person to be with.
I've learned that Barbara is a very steadfast person. She stands by her principles and her values. And that's hard to do, especially as an artist, because sometimes people want you to conform and do things their way. But she seems to just be herself and be very happy and content in what she's doing. And I think she's going to go down as a major contributor to our Latino culture and our art and our history.
It's hard to talk about her greatest achievement because an artist always believed that her most recent work of art is probably her best. But certainly the mural that is right now the subject of a lot of controversy, I believe personally, is her greatest achievement.
To me, she's a trailblazer. She helped, blaze a path for my generation to continue that work. So when we think about her generation of Chicanas, that first one that were at the university, getting their degrees, being part of the Chicana movement, they were creating something new. They were creating a past for us, but also giving us a language to not just about thinking about our identity as Chicanos, but what it means to be a woman.
All the pain in her life, everything that she's ever gone through that's negative, she always turns it into something positive, and that's a sign that that person is a real artist. She can create anything from pain and anything from her past experiences and make it into something beautiful and something inspiring instead of it being negative all the time.
Barbara is a fighter, and she fights not only for workers' rights, but for other artists and also for women. So when we look at her art, we always see that women are empowered in the art that she makes. So Barbara, thank you for that, and thank you for your humility. Thank you for your honesty, for being true to yourself and true to the movement, and always helping other artists as they come along in their careers.
I had the privilege of actually being at a presentation in Union Station where she unveiled a mural that had been put away for almost 30 years. That she did almost 30 years ago as a young woman. And it is a history, a depiction of Los Angeles and the struggles that our city and our people have gone through. And it isn't just about Latinos, it's about civil rights, it's about Rosa Parks, it's about Emiliano Zapata, about the Virgen of Guadalupe, and all the way up to the zoot suits and lowriders and who we are as Latinas.
I think when you think about Barbara's accomplishments, it's not just about doing art for herself, which she does create art that speaks to her artistic voice, but she's also deeply connected to our community and working around issues of social justice and nurturing those leaders.
She has a unique talent that really, I think, embodies the motto and slogan of the United Farm Workers, and that is Si se puede. Barbara is Si se puede.
The legacy of Barbara Carrasco will be that the mural will have found its permanent place. And even though she's small of stature, she will be seen as having stand tall on the shoulders of giants like Diego Rivera and Siqueiros, who, like Barbara, did not give in to big government and big money when they were told to compromise their artistic principles, when they were told they had to censor their murals. That's what's going to be, in my mind, what I'm going to remember about Barbara, and I think for generations to come, that will be her legacy.
Ladies and gentlemen, MALDEF is proud to recognize Barbara Carrasco with its Leadership in the Arts Award. Please welcome Barbara Carrasco.
Well, I am very grateful for this Leadership in the Arts Award that MALDEF is giving me tonight for very different reasons. I've always felt a connection with MALDEF. Many years ago, I did a portrait of Linda Wong, who was then president of MALDEF, very early in my career, and then later had the opportunity to do a portrait of Antonio Hernandez, who's here tonight, another former president of MALDEF, and a very inspirational woman. But besides doing portraits that I do a lot of that kind of work for, to generate income, I also do a lot of public murals, which is not a really rewarding kind of a venture because it doesn't make a lot of money, but and then this big mural that was censored, I have to admit that I'm not alone. It's not a unique story. There are several murals that are being censored throughout the city. And I really want to encourage all of you to go see a show right now, an exhibit with 7 other fellow artists whose work was also censored, muralists who's faced the same kind of problems I did, where an agency who's funding the mural will tell them, well, this doesn't work because it might offend somebody. And in the case of the mural, the LA history mural, I was told that the Japanese don't want to be reminded of the internment camps. And this is coming from an all-white male board of the CRA. So I said, well, that's interesting. None of you are Japanese. So I went out and generated, I invited in 3 major Japanese organizations to look at the mural, and they endorsed the mural. So you can also see it at La Plaza de Cultura y Artes, an exhibit there, Murales Rebeldes, and in the exhibit, the letters of support from the Japanese community are part of that exhibit, so you can read what they have to say about that image. They said it has to be in the mural. It's vital that it's in the mural so that this is never repeated. This negative chapter in the history of America is never repeated. Recently, I got a lot of press coverage on the mural, but I also received a lot of press coverage early on, and I just want to thank Jim Blancarte, who's sitting here today. He's now a judge, but he was my attorney. Him and Antonio Rodriguez both saw me on the news, and they approached me. They said they wanted to represent me pro bono, which I had no idea what that meant at the time. But I am really grateful for them because it was very controversial at the time, which is kind of ridiculous when you see the mural. There's nothing controversial about it other than its basic LA history. And we have to fight censorship. I mean, this is our legacy is the history of LA. So many people contributed to that history, and hopefully I was able to include so many different cultures other than our rich Mexican heritage. Even though I'm a güera, but I did learn how to. I have to admit that the Cesar Chavez and Dolores Huerta taught me about perseverance. And then my husband, Harry Gamboa, very famous photographer, and my daughter, Barbie, they have stuck by me through my really dark moments. And some of my friends that are here also, I had to battle cancer. I am 21 years cancer-free. And I'm just really grateful to be here, and I am so very humbled to be receiving this award on behalf of so many artists who work really hard in the community, who are a voice of the community. And murals, if you see murals, you have to remember that those murals are a visual narrative of one's community. I really think that this exhibit at La Plaza is important because it's showing people for the first time what these artists face. And I think it would be great if you could go and see their work. It's a form of support. Buying their work would be even more supportive. But just kidding. I don't know why I threw that out there. Sorry, but there's I want to acknowledge one of my coworkers, John Valadez, who also my husband spoke about. He's here. He's one of the really great artists that I had the honor to work with for many years, and he's here. So and also my friend Isabel Castro Melendez, who's also an exhibit right now at the Hammer Museum. It's called Radical Women. And it's 200 Latina artists, so please go and see it. So, thank you so much.
Thank you, Barbara. It's so beautiful to witness how much your family loves you here and is supporting you and all your friends. So thank you for shining a bright light on the rich Latino experience through your art. I got to follow that. Thank you, everyone, for your support of MALDEF. It's been a pleasurable evening. We're not over yet. This is a great time to introduce our next honoree this evening. The California Secretary of State, the Honorable Alex Padilla. I've had the honor of getting to sit with him and his gorgeous wife, and so talented. They have a lot of things going on right now. But Alex Padilla, the recipient of MALDEF's Excellence in Government Service Award. Secretary Padilla's government service has indeed been both excellent and exemplary. His biography is a litany of groundbreaking achievements, a graduate of MIT, the first Latino to ever be elected California Secretary of State. He was just 26 when he was first elected to the Los Angeles City Council to represent the East San Fernando Valley District where he grew up. He went on to become the first Latino and youngest council member ever to have been named council president. Alex Padilla became State Senator Padilla in 2006 and served 2 terms in Sacramento. He was the driving force behind Senate Bill 1440, that is the law that created transfer degrees. This historic achievement eases the way for students to move from community colleges to the Cal State University and helps them achieve their dream of a 4-year degree. And as chair of the Senate Energy Committee, he led efforts to expand our use of renewable energy, which we see as so important today. So thanks to his contribution, by 2020, 1/3 of California's energy needs will come from renewable sources. Amen. In his current role, Secretary Padilla has been a champion of an issue that is the main focus of MALDEF's mission, voting rights. His initiatives have helped register more than 1 million new voters, and as a result, the state set new records for voter registration and voter turnout for the 2016 general election. Secretary Padilla will also help millions more exercise their constitutional rights under the new Motor Voter Act, which will eventually register every eligible Californian who gets or renews a driver's license. And under his Honor Veterans Vote initiative, many of these voters can also dedicate their vote in honor of a military service member. Alex Padilla is a true son of the San Fernando Valley. He was raised in Pacoima by immigrant parents from Mexico and still lives in the San Fernando Valley with his wife Angela and their 3 sons. I got to look at their picture, they're darling kids. Let's take a look at the tribute that Video MALDEF created for Alex.
I think Alex's legacy is the fact that he actually is a pioneer in many ways. He became the president of the California Latino Caucus League of Cities, the California League of Cities, again, becoming the first Latino ever to become the president of the California League of Cities when he was on the city council. Again, the youngest council member, second youngest council member in the history of Los Angeles, and also the youngest council president by far. And he's someone that when he takes on a responsibility, he just doesn't impress people because he's the youngest. He impresses people because he's far beyond his years, and he is someone who is dedicated to the community.
My first impression of Alex was that he was a real young whippersnapper, destined for great things. He and I served on an advisory committee together, evaluating essays for scholarships sponsored by bonds.
One of the greatest achievements, though, is how he's brought together all of the different stakeholders. He has a very collaborative way of approaching different problems, and he brings not only the registrar of voters together, the different county officials, but also advocates and community members, so that we are approaching the problem in a multi-pronged way.
Alex Padilla is driven by the fact that he knows what it's like to not have everything, to grow up with very little. His mother cleaned homes and his father was a short order cook his entire career here in the United States. And Alex was able to go to public schools and go to a prestigious school called MIT. I don't know if everybody's heard of that, to become an engineer. And all Alex wants is just to make sure that everybody has opportunities, that we have a fair playing field. And I always see that that's what drives Alex in everything that he does.
It is very hard for me not to think of Alex's greatest achievement other than being president of NALEO for 3 years. I think during his tenure, he elevated the organization, gave us a great stature, but I think he also, in a very savvy way, was able to use the national platform to bring together a national network of Latino leaders that were able to support and help each other.
I've seen Secretary Padilla speak a number of different times, and I see that a lot of his motivation is driven by the fact that he has immigrant parents and he understands how immigrants and working class folks may not have easy access to the ballots. And so he strives to make sure that regular people are able to vote.
Alex's legacy? I still yet to see it, because I think he has many years ahead in public service. What he is doing now as Secretary of State is absolutely extraordinary. What he did on the City Council, what he did on the State Senate has been extraordinary, but I am holding out for even greater things to call his legacy.
I think that the biggest legacy for Secretary Padilla is the passage of SB 450, the Voters' Choice Act. It will fundamentally change the way that Californians vote in counties that adopt it.
We grew up in the same neighborhood, we wanted the same things for our community, and we realized that we needed to break barriers in order to make things happen. And Alex continues to do that in our community of Pacoima, in our city of Los Angeles, in our state of California, and I truly do believe that Alex Padilla is going to make a difference across this nation in many ways in the future.
Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm welcome to this year's recipient of MALDEF's Excellence in Government Service Award, California Secretary of State, Alex Padilla.
Wow. No pressure, no expectations, right, after that video. Well, good evening, MALDEF family. Thank you so much for being here tonight, and Tom, to you, the board, the staff, for this incredible, incredible honor. On the way here tonight, my wife was asking me, so you've been to this event like, what, every year, or how often do you come? And I told her, you know, when I was a young staff member for Tony Cardenas, who you saw in the video, for Dianne Feinstein, for others, you know, I would come almost every year with or without the boss. And when I came into city council and through my years in the Senate, it's been every few years, and I'll confess, sometimes just the reception, do the mingling, and then get home to my beautiful wife. But MALDEF always held a special place in my heart because of the work that MALDEF does and the principles and values that MALDEF defends. And I say that because it just underscores how humbling this honor is for me to be recognized, my work to be recognized by MALDEF. So Tom, to you and the MALDEF family, thank you. I also want to give a special shout out to a former MALDEF staff attorney who somehow I convinced to come to work for me as my chief counsel in the Secretary of State's office, Steve Reyes. The lights are off, but I know he's here somewhere. So maybe the California Secretary of State's office is just an extension of MALDEF right now. Who knows? Who knows? Call it what you will. And I do want to thank my beautiful wife, Angela, who's here with me tonight because she knows tonight's a big deal. And I will urge you to read between the lines when I say this, that we are blessed to have the responsibility not of raising 3 little boys, but of raising 3 gentlemen. I congratulate our fellow honorees or awardees tonight too, and again, can't speak enough about the work that Maldiv does and why it's so important. But you got a glimpse, you got a taste in the introduction and in the video of what drives me each and every day. I am the proud son of immigrants from Mexico to the United States. And I know that my parents, like many of your parents and many of you, came to the United States in pursuit of the American dream. We're willing to work for it. We're willing to not throw away their shot, for those of you who have seen Hamilton, and sacrifice so much so that they could be okay, but that the next generation could have it even better. You heard that my parents worked for 40 years. My dad as a short order cook, my mom cleaning houses. They raised 3 kids in Pacoima. My sister, who went from TA to teacher to principal to now she's an administrator in the LA Unified School District. My younger brother, you know, the attorneys, the land use attorneys and developers in the audience may know him from City Hall, where he's a deputy chief of staff to council member Nuri Martinez. I'm the middle child, which probably explains a lot. And yes, I'm the first elected Latino Secretary of State in the state of California. So just think about that in one generation. Cooks, house cleaners, California Secretary of State. The American dream is alive and well in the state of California. But what you won't get from the video is this, a little story. Because I remember I was in I think it was the 2nd grade, the first time I got beat up at school by 5th graders. And I came home and I was dirty, my shirt was ripped, and my dad, typical Mexican dad, right, man, a few words, but he asked, ¿Qué te pasó? So I had to tell him. And so he took me to the front yard, and that's the day I learned how to box. And what did he say? He didn't say go pick fights. He didn't say mañana venganza. He didn't say that. He said, mijo, no les busques, pero si empiezan contigo, no te dejes. Defiéndete. So Tom, I know you guys have a board meeting tomorrow. I'd like to respectfully suggest a name change. The Mexican American Legal No Nos Vamos a Dejar Education Fund in time for your 50th anniversary. And I can go on and on about my parents instilling like good values and volunteerism and the importance of education, right, in my brother and my sister and myself. And it's those values and that guidance that has brought me to where I am today. And boy, where are we today? You know, I heard during the reception rumblings of, you know, last year's Maldiv dinner was only 2 days after the election. So that means this year's Maldiv dinner is only 2 years after the 1-year anniversary of that election. And the 1-year emotional roller coaster that we've all been on. Build the wall, travel bans, DACA, Arpaio, Charlottesville. It's been a lot. It's been a lot. And in my day job, to know that at the core of a lot of what this administration is doing is attacking voting rights and trying to suppress the votes. No nos vamos a dejar. We're gonna fight back. We are fighting back. How are we doing it? Hey, in California, do what you will elsewhere. We're gonna do automatic voter registration. Do what you will do elsewhere. We're gonna give voters more options, more choices on when, where, and how to cast the ballot. You can challenge voting rights, challenge democracy elsewhere. this Latino son of immigrants, Secretary of State in California, is going to show the rest of the world a better way by working together with each and every one of you. But let's not make just a kid from Pacoima trying to do good. But let's not make any mistake of what we're up against. It's this administration and everything and everybody around this administration, right? And it all started even before he was sworn in as president. Going back to last November, those stupid tweets. I would have won the popular vote if it wasn't for the millions of illegals voting. Massive voter fraud in West Virginia, New Hampshire, and the state of California. So yes, I take it personal because he's calling me out, and he's calling Steve Reyes out, and he's calling all the elections officials at the state and local level in California, and all the volunteers who give of their time to help conduct Election Day. Voting rights are under assault by the president. Voting rights are under assault by the Attorney General, by all the states in this post-Shelby v. Holder decision at the Secretary of State, at the U.S. Supreme Court, that gutted the teeth of the Voting Rights Act when they undid Section 5. Our voting rights are under assault by this sham Commission on Voter Integrity, which is anything but, because it is stacked by the who's who of voter suppression champions in the country. There's a lot at stake, and I say it all not to talk about me, but to talk about the importance of MALDEF's work. So to all the sponsors here tonight, thank you, thank you, thank you. How do we take it up next year? To Tom and all the staff and all the attorneys who are in the trenches on all these fights, thank you, thank you. Dale gas. We got to keep going. To the And so when you get up in the morning, tomorrow morning and every morning, and you hear the news, and you heard about the tweet of the day, no se dejen. Let's keep working together. Let's keep organizing. Let's keep fighting back, because that's who we are. That's what MALDEF is all about. Thank you so much for this honor.
Thank you, Secretary Padilla, for your dedication to government service and for your inspiration and for your work on behalf of all Latino communities and our Californians. For the next and final award this evening, it is with great pleasure that I introduce the Honorable Patricia Madrid, the recipient of the Valerie Cantor Award for Extraordinary Achievement. And make no mistake, Patricia Madrid's achievements have been more than extraordinary. She is best known as the first woman to be elected Attorney General of her native New Mexico, serving from 1999 to 2007. And it was during those years she established the state's first Violence Against Women unit, which trained first responders to domestic violence incidents in rural New Mexico. She created the state's first Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force and the first Crime Victims Unit, which provided support to crime victims and their families in trial court. Patricia also set up the first Capital Litigation Unit, which provided assistance to district attorneys across the state to prosecutions of violent crimes and death penalty cases. And she created Justice for America, a political action committee dedicated to encouraging young Latinas to run for office. Young Latinas can certainly look to Patricia as a model of political success. She was just 5 years out of the University of New Mexico Law School when she won election as a district court judge, another first for a woman in New Mexico. And later in her career, Patricia was chair of the Conference of Western Attorneys General, where she founded the CWAG. International Rule of Law program. She received the prestigious Otley Award for her work that spurred the government of Mexico to adopt a new oral adversarial criminal justice system. She also served as the co-chair of the National Democratic Attorneys General Association, and her distinguished accomplishments have earned her many awards, including the National Latina Lawyer Bar Association's Mary V. Orozco Abriendo Caminos Award and the Hispanic Business Magazine's Elite Women's List and Trailblazer Award from the New Mexico Commission on the Status of Women and the Governor's Award for Outstanding New Mexico Women. With all of that, we've been saving the best accomplishment for last, her service as board chair of MALDEF. She was at the helm when the board brought on Tom Sainz as our president, or y'all's president, and general counsel in 2009. And if we do say so ourselves, she couldn't have made a better choice. Let us take a look at the tribute MALDEF has prepared for Patricia Madrid.
Well, my first impression of Patricia, and this was when I believe she was actually in her last year of law school when I met her, was that she was a very independent, a very dedicated person to the task at hand.
She's incredible. I'll never forget that. Truly a leader, but also somebody who really believes in opening doors for other women.
She was an icon for many of the lawyers in my family, as she was the first female district judge in New Mexico, which I am telling you is still a really big deal, and we're very proud of Patsy.
There's so many achievements that she has that I can't even just say I'm going to single one out. But she's been the first, first Latina, first woman, first district court judge, ran for lieutenant governor. She could have been U.S. Senator of New Mexico. She could have been governor of New Mexico if she wanted.
In some ways, I say dedication to herself, that is, to be true to her own ideals. But from a public point of view, more importantly, she's dedicated to the ideals of whatever position she has, so that she'll be true to that position, thereby helping the people of New Mexico.
She set the tone. Domestic violence prevention work, working with women, working with children, working on behalf of seniors, protecting seniors, consumer protection, making sure we were doing everything to protect consumers from any type of fraud or or any type of activity by big organizations taking advantage of them. I mean, I can't say enough.
Patricia's highly motivated, high achiever. I think her family values are great. I think her mother, her father, just instilled in her, set your vision to the horizon and go for it.
Her being elected the first Latina Attorney General in the United States is certainly a significant accomplishment, because it certainly opened the doors for others to follow in her footsteps.
Well, she's still young enough to be building. I would say that she's already built, to a large extent, a background that people can admire. But I think that'll continue.
She cares about helping others. She cares about standing up for those that are most vulnerable and tearing down barriers. She showed that as the Attorney General of New Mexico. She continues to show it to this day. Still active in helping others.
Well, I'd like to say to Patricia that I admire the work that she's been doing. I honor her for it. I was a professor in New Mexico, so I am always very pleased to see that those who have graduated from the law school in New Mexico, which is the only law school in New Mexico, have gone on to do well. So I would extend my congratulations to her in bringing honor to not only her position, but the University of New Mexico School of Law, and for the independence that she has demonstrated in aiding and representing the people of New Mexico.
Her legacy is opening doors for other Latinas. I know to this day she is active in so many Latino organizations, and because she believes not only in bringing that diversity, but also she believes that women and Latinas really should have a voice at the table and be there to make change and have a different perspective. And we should be really representing the communities that are diverse.
Patsy, I just want to say how terribly proud we are of you and everything that you've given so much, not only to MALDEF, but also to the whole country. Thank you for being who you are. We love you.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is my great honor to give a warm welcome to the former New Mexico Attorney General and former MALDEF Board Chair, Patricia Madrid, the recipient of the Valerie Cantor Award for Extraordinary Achievement.
Wow, it almost made me cry. Thank you so much, MALDEF, for awarding me the Valerie Cantor Award. I am so humbled to be here tonight, honored with Barbara Carrasco, because we know that art is what inspires us to do the kinds of things that we want to do. Thank you, Barbara. And Alex Padilla, most people don't really understand how important a Secretary of State is, but I do as Attorney General. He is the person that protects our right to vote in this country. And all of us know that's being threatened, so thank you for that work that you've done. I am here tonight with my husband of 42 years. You saw us when we were very young. His name is Michael Messina. 42 years of aguantando. Aguantando me. I could not have done any of these campaigns, political campaigns, without him. I ran 5 statewide races in New Mexico, and it is a very big state, and he drove me everywhere. And even though he's a lawyer, he always was there by my side and continues to be today. The other person that I want to recognize and thank is Tom Sines. One of my proudest accomplishments is having served chairman of the board of MALDEF when we were so fortunate to find him and talk him into being our chairman and general counsel. He is, without a doubt, one of the best, one of the brightest civil rights lawyers in the country today. I haven't seen him in a few years, but when I saw him tonight, I noticed that he has more gray hair. And somehow he's a little beaten down. And I want all of us to be behind him more, because he's at the forefront of battles in this country that we want him to be there. Let's do everything we can to help Tom in what he has to do every day. This is MALDEF has been a very significant part of my life. I served on the board early in my career, in my early 30s, when I was a judge. And then I left, and then 30 years later, after I had been Attorney General, I came back. And that's when I became chairman of the board. So it's spanned many, many years for me and has meant many, many things for me throughout my life. I have made lifelong friends that I am close to now on the MALDEF board. Helen Hernandez, founder and president of Imagen, and I are still friends. We served on the board. Rodolfo Anaya, professor at UCLA, professor emeritus of sociology. Brilliant. We've been friends for over 30 years. And that is what happens. When you belong to MALDEF, you become part of a national network of Latino political and activist friends who are making a difference all over the country. Just this week, I got off the phone with Jesse Ruiz, and he's a board member, or was a board member, and he's now running for Attorney General of Illinois. So we're going to have that MALDEF voice when he's Attorney General there. Antoinette Cedillo Lopez, who's on the board, she's running to be a congresswoman. So it's all of our family from all over the country that we came to know as members of MALDEF. MALDEF has given me the opportunity to be directly involved in the important issues that are very vital to our country and democracy: immigration, voting rights, civil rights. I have retired now, and I live in the serene, magnificent mountains of northern New Mexico on my ranch. It is so remote that I don't even have an address. When I give people directions, I have to do Google Map coordinates. That's how remote it is. But even though I'm way up in the mountains, and I must say it's a shock to be in downtown LA. Even though I'm way up there, I want to tell you that I remain very, very active politically, locally in Mora, which is the county I live in, statewide, in our governor's race, and even on the national level. And why? Why do I continue after all these years? I should be tired, but one of the things that I was thinking about the other day, I was very lucky when I was Attorney General one time because I was seated at a luncheon next to Isabel Allende, the famous Chilean author. And you probably have read her books. She spoke emotionally about when she was a very young woman in 1973, and her uncle, Salvador Allende, was president of Chile. She was a student and living a very privileged life as niece of the president in a country that was a democracy. Just like we kind of take it for granted every day of our lives that we are in a democracy every day. But one morning, or one evening, she was abruptly awakened. A coup had occurred overnight, and she was told to leave immediately with her other family members. A lot of her family members were killed. Her uncle was murdered. She barely made it out of the country, and she has never lived there again. She lives here. The point she makes is that we can never, ever take life in a democracy for granted. And her story has never left me. And I think of it every day, especially now, especially since we now have an authoritarian in charge. You know, we live in a divided country, but in a country now with a president that continues to divide us. And those of us who have studied American history know that being part of the United States of America is what made this country. But that united part is in jeopardy. Unfortunately, Latinos have and continue to be the first casualty of this president's divisive policies. If you notice, every time his polls drop, he goes back to his mantra of build that wall. That is his main wall. The only thing that is going to preserve our democracy and our Constitution is to adhere to its checks and balances and to hold our institutions, hold them dear and make them strong, keep them strong. MALDEF, more than ever, is at the forefront of saving our institutions, especially a strong judiciary. By bringing cases and litigating, MALDEF is engaging our courts to act. Supporting MALDEF is what we can do and must do to preserve our democracy. Because after all, in a democracy, especially today, there are no bystanders. So I would like to thank you so much tonight for your activism and for being here tonight supporting MALDEF. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, the Honorable Patricia Madrid. Can I go live in your remote ranch? I don't require much. And if you have horses, I'll muck and clean up the stables. Anyway, so thank you for your dedicated service and your enduring commitment to MALDEF. Now I'd like to welcome back to the stage Thomas Saenz, the President and General Counsel of MALDEF.
Thank you all for being here this evening and for helping us to recognize some very deserving honorees. I hope you, as I have been inspired, have recommitted, and have recognized the continuing importance of all the work that we do at MALDEF together with our allies and collaborators in this room and well beyond. I begin, of course, with thanks. First of all, to Michelle Valles for your very, very impressive stewardship of this evening. Thank you for joining us again and serving as Master of Ceremonies. To our dinner committee, who helped to make this evening possible with your ongoing participation in conference calls and your participation in reaching out to others, I'd like to ask all the members of our dinner committee to please stand and be recognized for your support of this evening and of MALDEF. I, of course, want to thank all of our sponsors, beginning with our co-chairs, Toyota and SEIU United Healthcare Workers West, with whom we are partnering in important litigation about the Medi-Cal program. Our other lead sponsors, Bank of America, Walmart, Southwest Airlines, and the Sidley Austin Foundation. Sidley Austin is also partnering with us as pro bono co-counsel in challenging the notorious Texas SB 4. Earlier you met our inspiring chair of the board, Regina Montoya. I would ask Regina and all of the members of the MALDEF Board of Directors present and past to please stand for all of your ongoing support in the mission of MALDEF. I have to again recognize my predecessor, my boss for a decade, Antonia Hernandez, who was President and General Counsel of MALDEF for 18 years. None of us understand how you did it, Antonia, but Antonia, please stand and accept our congratulations and our gratitude. I've had the great honor and privilege of leading MALDEF for the past 8 years. And what we have accomplished has been a tribute, not just to our predecessors, as I'll discuss in a few minutes, but also to our staff across the country of dedicated professionals, lawyers and non-lawyers, community educators, activists, assistants, those who have really sacrificed daily, financially, and in their ongoing efforts to ensure that we live up to the mission of MALDEF, now 49 years in age, to promote the civil rights of all Latinos living in the United States. I would like to ask all of the staff members of MALDEF who are here tonight, past and present, to please stand and accept our gratitude for all that you have done for our mission. This evening has been a tremendous success, thanks to all of you, but thanks to the tremendous planning and efforts that have gone into it. I would like to recognize Gina Montoya, Heaven Ocampo, Sandra Hernandez, Tony Marcano, Jose Delgado, Leticia Urquidi, Aaron Eng, and all of the others who have helped to put together this tremendous evening. Thank you all. And of course, the one thing that makes these events so successful is that we are privileged each year to have honorees who accept our invitation to come and be recognized, but more importantly, to come and inspire with their words, with their history, with the video stories of their accomplishments. And we certainly had a tremendous cohort of honorees this evening. The courageous and tenacious Barbara Carrasco, our very smart and committed and young with so much potential Secretary of State, the Honorable Alex Padilla, and the recipient of the Valerie Cantor Award for Extraordinary Achievement, the wise and inspiring former Chair of the Board and Attorney General of New Mexico, our good friend, Patricia Madrid. You heard from Secretary Padilla that a year ago, we convened only 2 days after an extraordinary election with an outcome anticipated in the Electoral College that none of us expected. With trepidation, we came together to commune, to look for comfort, to look for inspiration to face what we knew we would face. But today, 2 days after an historic election in Virginia and New Jersey, we can say with full confidence what a difference a year makes. Voters in Virginia and New Jersey, including a significant complement of Latino voters, sent a message on Tuesday, a message that we hope will reverberate through the halls of Congress and through our legislatures and through our governor's mansions around the country. A message that rejects the division, that rejects the hatred, that rejects the scapegoating of the current White House. We predicted a year ago from our experience in California after Proposition 187 that this backlash would come true. And a year later, we have begun to see it. But we know at MALDEF, on the cusp of our 50th anniversary, next August will mark 50 years from when we opened our doors in San Antonio, Texas. With that length of tenure in fighting for civil rights, we can say with full confidence that we have the long view. We have the understanding that this battle, and it is an ongoing battle to ensure that our nation lives up to its constitutional principles more truly than it has throughout too lengthy a history of ignoring those principles. We have the long view. And at MALDEF in particular, we see the clear line from what happened 40 years ago and 2 months. In September 1977, when MALDEF attorneys in Texas went to federal court to challenge a new Texas law that permitted local school districts to deny admission to undocumented children or to charge them tuition. MALDEF lawyers went to federal court, accompanied by courageous plaintiffs, children and their parents, who at great risk put themselves forward to challenge the travesty of Texas's legislation. They went to court not knowing that their theory, that our Equal Protection Clause defended and protected the right of every child to a free public school education, would be vindicated or not. But 5 years later, 35 years ago this June, the United States Supreme Court, in a 5-4 decision, established in Plyler versus Doe, perhaps MALDEF's most significant Supreme Court victory, established the right of every child, regardless of immigration status, to attend kindergarten through 12th grade public education without charge. At MALDEF, we have the long view. The long view of the filing of Plyler 40 years ago, the decision from a split court 35 years ago, where despite a 5-4 constitutional decision, all 9 justices, including William Rehnquist, agreed that it was incredibly bad policy to adopt the Texas law. We have the long view that sees the connection from Plyler 35 years ago in 1982 to the efforts in the 1990s in Texas and California to provide in-state tuition, to eliminate a financial obstacle to those Plyler kids going on to higher education in public universities. We have the long view in that we see the clear line from those efforts, beginning in California and Texas in the 1990s, continued in a dozen and more other states across the country. We see the line from those efforts in the 90s to the introduction in the early 2000s of the DREAM Act, a promise hopefully to be enacted by Congress that those children, American in every way but birth, would have the opportunity to pursue their educations as far as their ambitions and skills would take them, and could then take on the mantle of public service, building our economy, building our society, building our polity in line with all of the generations of Latinos and others before them. We have the long view at MALDEF that sees the connection from the DREAM Act in the early 2000s to the 2012 action by President Obama, his hand forced by the courageous and strategic activism of Dreamer Youth to implement the initiative known as DACA, Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. Not only do we have the long view, we have the legal view, and we know that when Donald Trump caved to the empty threat from the Texas Attorney General that somehow he could successfully challenge DACA, that when Donald Trump caved with bad advice from Attorney General who doesn't understand the law or care to learn more about it, with advice from White House advisors more interested in a political right-wing extremist victory than what's best for America, we have the legal view to understand that he caved to a lie, and to work together with others, including those who across the country this very day stepped forward to demand a DREAM Act now, to hold this president and those who advise him accountable for their legal error, and to ensure that we will protect this cohort of immigrants and their families in recognition of how true they are to our traditions, our history, and our constitutional principles. Because we have the long view, we know that we cannot bask in the victory of Virginia and New Jersey. We know that this is no time for complacence. We know that the threats, known and unknown, will continue under an administration that has engaged in an unprecedented era of propaganda warfare against its own people, sowing fear and confusion never seen in this country in the immigrant community. We know that as this administration seeks to undermine the Affordable Care Act, to undermine the right to vote, to undermine the notion that every community should be included and counted in this country, that this is no time for complacence. 1 week ago today, I was in Washington, D.C. at a meeting of the National Advisory Committee on Racial, Ethnic, and Other Populations of the United States Census Bureau to see something that could only be characterized as unprecedented, only less noteworthy because we live in an era of unprecedenteds every day. But the Census Bureau staff presented to the committee evidence spontaneously produced. They weren't looking for it. But evidence came to them from field workers engaging in the ongoing polling that the Census Bureau does, from direct respondents in focus groups and other efforts to assess planning for Census 2020. The staff of the Census Bureau, because of that spontaneous showing, came forward to present to the committee evidence that more than 2.5 years before Census 2020, we are already seeing folks who are afraid to be counted, afraid to provide accurate information about their families, afraid to participate in the constitutionally mandated decennial census of all persons in the United States. Donald Trump is doing his level best in 2017 to ensure that there is not a complete count of the Latino community in 2020. There can be no clearer clarion call for our not giving in to the tempting rest of complacence. If we need more, we need look no further than the Pence-Kobach Commission mentioned by Secretary Padilla that seeks to do nothing more than upend a long-standing tradition of increasing voter participation, not decreasing it. This commission, whose formal name involves election integrity, but whose real name should be the Area 51 Commission, because they're looking for something, voter fraud, that is as common as documented UFO sightings. We cannot, in light of these challenges, celebrate the victories in Virginia or New Jersey for too long. We must be back to the work of ensuring that what Donald Trump inspires is prevented, is deterred, is blocked. We do that at MALDEF. Perhaps the best example is the work this week to once more challenge the notorious Texas SB 4, a law that would unleash badge vigilantes throughout the state of Texas, 20-year veterans and one-day rookies, empowered by that law to decide on their own whether and how to enforce immigration law. We have sued, and we have been sued by the state of Texas, which was so afraid of our threat to challenge the constitutionality of SB 4 that it preemptively sued MALDEF. Now we, through the threat of sanctions, were able to obtain a voluntary dismissal of that lawsuit and to proceed with filing our own lawsuit on behalf of the City of San Antonio, Bexar County, City of El Paso, and numerous community-based organizations against the unconstitutional SB 4. But today, if we needed even an additional reminder of how important our work is and the importance of not being complacent, I learned today as I drove from the airport to this hotel that the City of San Antonio has been sued today. Why? For having the temerity to sign a retainer agreement with MALDEF. They've been sued in state court for granting some gift to MALDEF through that retainer. I hasten to inform you that we are not challenging the City of San Antonio, as we do not challenge any of our clients for our work. But we have been challenged, we alone have been challenged through this state court lawsuit today. Now I am proud that they are so afraid of MALDEF that they have chosen to take this course of action. But I did tell the reporter that I wished he could write down laughter as my response, but I realized I would have to give him a verbal quote to respond to the lawsuit. but it is an indication of how hard we must continue to work, because behind every door, under every rock, is someone who has been inspired, in the most terrible sense of the word, by this administration. It has inspired a dangerous normalization of white nationalism, a dangerous willingness to accept positions against increasing our efforts to integrate and welcome immigrants, a dangerous normalization of lawlessness in government. And I don't mean only the violations of law that may be unearthed by special counsel, but I mean an unwillingness to attend or care about what the law in its most sacred form, the Constitution, means and protects for every American. But at MALDEF, like you, we have the long view. We have the legal view, we have the long view, and we have been here before. May not have been so blatant, may not have been so demoralizing, may not have been so pervasive, at least in recent decades. But with 50 years, we have been here before. We have the long view. Long before Donald Trump even dreamed of being president, long before Donald Trump even voted in an election, we have the long view. And we know from our history, the clear line from Plyler to today, the clear line from Prop 187 in California to Virginia and New Jersey this week. We have the long view, we have been here before, and we know that together, with our allies in this room and beyond, in the Latino community, in the Asian American community, in the African American community, in the Muslim American community, in the LGBTQ community, in the community of women who continue to strive for fair treatment in government and entertainment as well. We know that together, the long view is our view, and we will prevail. Thank you for being here tonight. We look forward to working together with all of you to achieve that victory.
Nice standing ovation for Mr. Tom Saenz and the MALDEF familia. Our Latino community is grateful to have you at the helm of MALDEF. Thank you for that tremendous speech and inspiration. Let's give another round of applause for each of our honorees and program participants. And with that, we have reached the end of tonight's program. Thank you for supporting MALDEF's 2017 Los Angeles Gala. MALDEF is privileged to enjoy the ongoing support of all of you. Thank you for your continuing commitment to MALDEF's work nationwide. See you next year at the 50th anniversary celebration. Gracias y buenas noches.